Okay, hello MYP2. This is just a little video to help you with your assignment for planning a school trip. Now I've been looking through school trips that I've planned myself. Um, Obviously I've kept all the files and spreadsheets and PDF files over the year. So this is a little document I made when I was planning what was going to be the May 2021 school trip with two colleagues. Obviously that trip ended up getting cancelled because of COVID, but we were discussing different options. So Hamburg, Munich was something we thought about, Cologne, Berlin. We also thought about Lalandia in Denmark. The original plan had been Italy, but that got scaled down due to COVID and then eventually cancelled. So we made a little document that we shared of pros and cons, educational activities, and fun activities. And I wanted a balance of education and leisure, which all good school trips, in my opinion, should have. So for Hamburg, the pros were a single train journey. It was cheap. Cons, some people had already been there. Educational activities, various galleries and so on, and various potential fun activities. Munich, pros, cons, education, fun. Cologne, couldn't think of much in the way of pros. Cons, longer train journey. Didn't really know much about Cologne, except that when I was your age, I went to I can't remember, Koblenz, which isn't too far from Cologne, and that was a good trip. And I went to some of these places when I was that age. Okay, I'm going to look at some other documents now, see what I can find. Okay, this was the school trip to London. Now, this was the one where the plane back got cancelled, and the last time I went to London with a school trip. So I made this day-to-day schedule on Excel. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then times from 7 o'clock, well, times of the day, and I've got them lined up. So 6 o'clock is always in the same place in a line here. 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 1600 hours. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, all nicely lined up. And what did we do? So we met at Billund Airport. We got a Ryanair, then a coach from Stansted Airport to London. Then we planned to go to the National Gallery, but in the event that didn't happen, we were a bit delayed, so we just settled into the hostel. We planned to have dinner at a restaurant called Giraffe, which I'd booked. Then we did a little tour around the West End. And we got lots of nice photos of that, which I'm not going to put on this video. Tuesday, we had breakfast at the hostel. We went to the Science Museum and Madame Tussauds and the London Dungeon. And then we went on the London Eye, dinner at Giraffe, and then some people wanted to see the Paddington Bear statue at, what station is that? Paddington Station, obviously. And also at, I think, King's Cross Station, the Harry Potter platform 9 3/4. So we did that for a little group. And then the next day, so we did a theatre workshop at the Globe Theatre. So that was my educational thing. And then we followed that up by going to see Matilda, big show in the West End. So it kind of tied in nicely with the theatre workshop that we've been doing, but it was a bit more fun. And then in the evening, we went to a classical music concert at the Royal Albert Hall, which wasn't too far from where we were staying. And they played music from video games with an orchestra. That was good. Okay, then on the Thursday, we did one of the museums, the Natural History Museum. We went to London Planetarium, so there was a presentation there. So that was 2 good educational activities. And then everybody got the opportunity to go shopping, and we had dinner at Nando's in the evening. And then finally on the Friday, the Imperial War Museum, a coach to Stansted Airport, and then we were supposed to get this plane back, but it was cancelled, and we ended up staying at Stansted Airport until the Saturday, which was challenging. But each one of these days, I tried to have something educational and something fun, and all of these things had to be costed out. So the plane cost money, the coach to get from the airport to the centre of London cost money. Just tickets to get around London cost money, if it wasn't walking distance. As a rule, the galleries and museums are free in London, but the more fun things, Madame Tussauds, London Dungeon, certainly going to a show, that was the most expensive thing probably, all cost money. So let's have a look at something else. Okay, so this is the MYP2 trip that should have taken place in 2020, but was cancelled due to COVID. And it's pretty much a clone of the 2019 trip, which did go ahead. So we started on a Sunday, so we got an extra, it was quite a long trip. We went from, or we should have gone from Aarhus to Fredericia Station, changed train, gone to Flensburg. Now, getting the trains in Denmark for school trips, that's free. So that train from Aarhus all the way to the border at Padborg would have been free, and then I would have needed to pay for a ticket from Padborg to Flensburg, just over the border, and then the train from Flensburg to Hamburg, that would have cost money. Dinner at Hamburg main railway station. There's a big place where you can choose lots of places to eat there. That would have cost money. I could have said to people that they needed to bring lunch money for that first day or bring lunches with them, so potential saving there. But as a rule, I would have included that in the cost. And then it would have been an overnight train from Hamburg to Munich. Then on the Monday, we would have woken up in Munich. You get a bit of breakfast on the train, not much, just a roll, but you get something. And then we would have arrived at Munich main station. We would have gone to the BMW Centre and done an educational workshop there, and also seen some cool cars. So that was a mixture of fun and education. Lunchtime, I would have had to budget for that. Normally I would say to people, here's a shop, go in and buy a healthy lunch, and you have a budget of so many euros each, and then hopefully not everybody would go up to budget, and we'd make a bit of a saving there. Okay, in the afternoon it would have been a trip to Bayern Munich's football stadium, and then an overnight train to Florence, again which would have cost money, and then we would have woken up in Florence on the Tuesday. I would have arranged to have breakfast already at the hostel that we were staying at. That would have cost some extra money because it's an extra day of breakfast. And then various trips to the cathedrals and galleries. As a rule, for a school group, they're free in Florence. So all of these gallery bookings with numbers, they would have been free. The Galileo Museum, that cost money, but it's a good educational one. And we would have had a karaoke night, so that would have been free and fun. And then on the Thursday, we would have gone to the Bobley Gardens, which is nice and would have been free. Then a shopping opportunity. Then an overnight train to Vienna. On the Friday, we would have woken up in Vienna. Then I'd planned a guided tour at the United Nations. That costs a small fee, well worth the money. Good educational activity, also very interesting. Then a fairground thing. So that would have been people having to spend their own money on the fairground. If the budget had allowed it, then I might have given an allowance to everybody. Certainly that's what we did the previous year. Then an overnight train to Hamburg. All of these overnight trains cost money. And then back to Hamburg and travelling back to Aarhus. So that was the skeleton plan for the MYP2 2020 trip that, in the event, because of COVID, never took place. But certainly it's very much like the previous year's trip, which did take place. Okay, so all of these school trips have to be paid for, and I always make a spreadsheet with the budget. So this is a potential trip to Berlin in 2020 that again never took place because of COVID. But let's just zoom in on this and have a look at what I did. If I can find my way around this. Here we go. Okay, so I had a thing with the number of teachers, and then the number of boys, and the number of girls, and the ages they were, and that was important for rooming. So you wanted a split between the boys and the girls for rooming in the accommodation, and you wanted to know the ages because that was relevant to train fares. The cut-off point for a child fare is different in Germany to in Denmark, so that's something you need to look into. So we had the parental contribution, so 21, that was actually calculated from the number of boys plus the number of girls. So if you look in there, that's a spreadsheet formula. 21 times 3,000 kroner, 63,000 kroner I had to play with. And then I was assuming that the school wasn't adding anything to that, although sometimes they find the budget to do that. And then maybe bake sales and things. Again, I was assuming nothing at that point. So I had 63,000 kroner with which to plan a trip. And then, so that's my income. And then over here, I had various expenses. So the accommodation was the big one. 3,487 euros, which I converted to Danish kroner with a spreadsheet formula. So it's basically the euro amount times 7.5. So it says equals L11 times 7.5. So that's the euro amount in cell L11 times 7.5 gave you the kroner amount, because 1 euro is about 7.5 kroner. Okay, so I had loads of things that were priced in euros, but in my spreadsheet I converted them to kroner by having a formula that multiplied them by 7.5. Okay, so we had dinner for the various days, which I budgeted as, how did I do that? Okay, so I've got a formula here that says C3 plus C4 plus C5. That's basically the number of people. And then multiplied by my, let me just come out of that, multiplied by C7, which was my dinner budget per day. So all of this dinner budget was set up as a formula with the numbers of people and the budget for dinner per day. In a similar way, I also had a lunch budget, and then I had the various costs of the trains, transport tickets whilst we were in Berlin, or would have been in Berlin, various activities that we would have done and their costs. and a cell up here that calculated my total income minus my total expenditure there, and at the moment it's a 3,494 krona deficit, so that's no good. So I was able to play with this. So because all of this was set up as formulas, I could say, well, what if I changed the dinner budget per day to just 17 euros each? Okay, and then that changes my deficit, but still not enough. Okay, well, what if I knock out this river cruise? Well, I think I've already knocked it out because I haven't got the kroner amount there, so that's not helping me. But what if I make my lunch budget per day €3.50? Now that's cutting it fine, because maybe you can't get much with 3.50, but we're coming down to a reasonable deficit. What if we made 1,000 kroner in a bake sale? That's helping. What if we didn't go to the computer game museum? Well, that's not so good because we're losing an activity, but that's the sacrifice you have to make sometimes. Okay, 165.70. Okay, if I just knock a little bit off the dinner budget per day, then 16.50. Oh, okay, so now I'm in surplus, so maybe I can put a bit more on the dinner budget. 16.70. Oh, maybe 16.80. Okay, can we squeeze a few pennies out of that? 16.85. No, let's make it 16.82. 16.81. 16.80 it is. Okay, so my target with all of this, it's not to make a profit, it's not to make a loss, it's to make the whole thing balance as much as possible and squeeze as much value as possible out of the whole trip, in order to give the students the best trip possible, best in terms of educational and fun and bonding, the best trip possible with the money available. So without losing a whole load of money, or without trying to make a profit either. It's just using the resources available to the best effect to make the best trip for the money.